Bon Jovi comments on returning to stage after undergoing vocal cord surgery. This is the Rock and Roll Weatherman. My name is Sean Morrison. John goes on to say that he's confident enough to now know that he can sell a ticket. He did a new interview with the How to Fail with Elizabeth Day podcast, and Bon Jovi, lead vocalist Bon Jovi, opened up about the vocal cord deterioration he experienced a few years ago, which caused him to have surgery in 2022. Asked when he realized something that was awry with his voice, John said, well, in his latest chapter of the saga of his body, probably 2014, 2013, he had a tumultuous time. He lost band member Richie Sambora, who basically quit the band, the crew, and the fans. A couple of business dealings didn't go the way he hoped they would. The band overcame that. He did 100 shows and preserved. In 2014, his body crashed out from under him, and he wasn't even aware. But he knew when he walked to his guitar, not only didn't he touch it, but it gave it the middle finger. He wasn't all interested in seeing his friend. And by 2015, when he was attempting to go back to work, maybe even a little bit, something wasn't right. He goes on to say it wasn't hard for him. It just wasn't. He said he'll beat the muscle back into shape. There was something incredibly wrong. He said he couldn't figure it out. He said in 2016, they put a record out called This House Is Not For Sale. Mr. Morrison knows that's a great album. It's a very much statement record. There's a chip on his shoulder. We work, but again, physically, he's not quite right. Didn't know why, so the tour is very short. After that, they're writing to what's become the 2020 album. Then COVID happens, and you're not thinking about touring because there's no such thing. And by 2022, when the world is opening up again, he's thinking, okay, what's the big deal? Let's go. He's past his difficulties of This House Is Not For Sale. He's past COVID like everyone else. He's dying to get out in the world. And he did what was to become a 15-show tour. It wasn't working anymore. He didn't understand it because of cliche world, they say, well, what have you done? What excesses? It was that. And then the only thing that's ever been up his nose is his finger, and he's laughing. It wasn't working. He willed it, and he tried very hard on a daily basis on a 15-show tour, which is practically you don't even bring a change of socks with 15 shows. It's like, that's nothing. At the end of the 15th show, he remembered going to that dressing room in Nashville, saying to his wife, it was pretty good. And she looked at me and said it wasn't. People think, what a blow. It really wasn't, because she wasn't going to tell him because she was going to tell him the truth. He goes to say that he remembers himself full time for a drink. He don't think he could do this anymore. I don't know, but I'm okay with walking away from this because there's no way he's dragging down a legacy. And then his journey began to what got him here tonight. And he goes speaking with her on the podcast. And he goes on reflecting on what actually found out what was wrong with him. He sought out a surgeon to explain to him that one of his vocal cords had literally atrophied. It was dying. And if he could do an implant of surgery on the outside of the vocal cords to get them to close properly again. So therefore, simultaneously closing. And if he worked hard, he promised nothing other than he'd be better than the night he was in Nashville. Had he known it was going to take a 3.5-year recovery, he might have said thank you, good night, but the process of progress was steady enough that he didn't lose faith. And it was nowhere near what he thought it would be in the recovery, and then because of the 2024 Forever and putting it out a year plus ago, he thought it was a bitch to let this moment slip through the hands again with these last 3 albums. So we reimagined the record of Forever with now the Legacy Edition, which has guest singers. Of course, you can check Mr. Morrison's review on his website. And then now and only now he's willing to go out on a limb and say, yes, he can play some shows because he feels fully recovered, or close enough to fully recovered because he has faith in the process. And of course, John is playing some shows in 2026 with Bon Jovi. He's now got about 7 shows in Madison Square Garden, a couple of shows in the United Kingdom as well in 2026. Of course, we're going to probably see more shows somewhere down the line, probably a little bit here and there. Asked to explain what his implant surgery entailed, John said, if you look closely here in the bottom of his throat, it's a scar. That's where they cut you. They go right in the front. They put 2 pieces of Gore-Tex, which is plastic, outside the vocal cords, but in the neck, they close the muscles together outside. Every time you say a word, the muscles push the cords together, and they were not firing symmetrically. After podcast podcast host Elizabeth Day said that she imagined there was a period of time that where he could speak and communicate. John clarified that it wasn't that extreme and that they told him it was going to be, but he said he did sound like the Godfather for a while. Oh, geez. Even the next day, they said you're not going to be able to talk, and he was able to talk like that. You certainly couldn't sing, and there was no way he could sing like to sing, so the process was very slow. He goes on to say after 6 weeks of surgery, he could take speech pathology kind of courses to work with a speech pathologist, and he goes to equate on that, saying, if when you're walking down the street and you have a pebble in one of your shoes, the first thing you say is, ow, 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 then eventually you would compensate by leaning to the other leg and the other shoe until you got used to that pebble being in the first shoe and you compensate. Oh, brother, that was a good one. Then so they had to start from scratch, teaching him how to speak, how to make you sound that sounded like singing, get the better process and all. Get better and better and get to the process. And it's a constant evolution. And he goes on to say he's confident enough to know that he can sell a ticket. He wasn't willing a year ago. Friends, if you're not subscribed to the Sean Morrison YouTube channel, please do so. Everyone else has to subscribe. We thank you very much for the continued love, honor, and support. It is greatly appreciated. So, friends, it's going to be very good news with John Bon Jovi, that he feels confident that he's able to sell tickets and all. And when it was supposed to be 4 shows in Madison Square Garden, now 7. No, fans are still coming. And is more proof that he does not need Richie Sambora with him to sell tickets. So your thoughts, friends, on John Bon Jovi returning to stage after he undergoing vocal cord surgery, with his comments saying that he's confident enough now to know that he can sell a ticket. Your thoughts, friends? Shame, shame, shame.